On August 2nd, 2014, we received an email from an unknown sender who, after some checking on our part, had obviously gone through great lengths to protect himself and the email's origination. The email address had been spoofed through multiple anonymous proxy servers, which in layman's terms means that the original author the email was sent from could not be in any way, shape, or form tracked to its original computer or sender. Very few emails are sent in this manner, unless the sender wishes to stay truly anonymous. As you can guess, this sparked our interest immediately. The email, which read only a few paragraphs or so long, went into minor detail about the sender himself, the reason for the images which were attached to the message, and an albeit brief summary of what the images depicted, and why it was important to give them on the web as soon as possible. The email read as follows, and I quote, "I cannot disclose my name, my rank within the ESA, or European Space Agency as it's called, or any other distinguishable information about myself that could jeopardize my safety down the road. However, I have written this email, which I have sent to you along with certain illegally obtained photographs in question, because of the fact there are numerous things going on in the world right now, particularly within the realm of reconnaissance missions to explore space and the objects therein, and there are lies being told, and more to the point, blatant cover-ups that are being pressed without consequence against the public. And in this case, with regards to the ROSETTA spacecraft and its publicly touted mission to investigate COMET 67P, do not think for one moment that a space agency would suddenly decide to spend billions of dollars to build and send a spacecraft on a 12-year journey to simply take some close-up images of a randomly picked out comet floating through space. I hope that your viewers and connections, if not your viewers themselves, are not as naive as the government hopes that you are. There is always a reason for money like this to be spent on such a mission, and that reason, I can assure you, was not to take pictures of a rogue space rock. The images attached to this email are two of the original images captured by the ROSETTA spacecraft on its approach to COMET 67P. By saying that they are original, I clarify this to mean that they are undoctored versions of the images already shown publicly or soon to be released publicly. These images depict the true nature of the mission and the real reason the space agencies across the world made it a priority to venture out and partake in a military reconnaissance mission around this object. COMET 67P is not a comet. Some 20 years ago, the NASA Space Agency began detecting radio bursts from an unknown origin out in space. It would later be known that these bursts had likely come from the direction of the now named COMET 67P. Once the technology progressed, it was confirmed that not only were these signals coming directly from the comet itself, but that the comet had seemed to change trajectory at will, which to any scientist is an obvious impossibility for any rock confined to the physics of space. It was at this time that the NASA Space Agency decided to plan out a mission to send a military-backed reconnaissance mission to the object, in hopes of discovering its true nature. Because of its nature and secrecy, the American Space Agency made a deal with the European government insiders to publicly tout the mission as a search to simply get a close-up of one of the millions of comets flying through space. It was the perfect cover and allowed governments to go about getting the mission off the ground without the need to hide its launch. There is always a true reason for certain space launches. Why do you think that soon after the 1947 Roswell crash, just a few years later, NASA was on the ball to get ready for a space launch to the moon? There is always a reason. The images attached to this email are undoctored and depict the true inner workings of COMET 67P, which as it turns out is something completely different from a comet and is only being disguised as such. As for who is disguising it and why, I cannot answer. All I can tell you is that whatever this thing is, it does show signs on its outside of machine-like parts and unnatural terrain. I trust that you will do your best to pass these images on to the proper sources, and ask that you simply have patience for my next reply. Whatever this object is, it did not ask to be found or scrutinized, and it appears for good reason.